I have got a new 3-round mock draft on SeahawksDraftBlog.com. Wanted to spend a bit of time talking about it today. So let's get into it. I'm going to run through all of the different picks. So here we go then. The first pick is Tennessee at number 1. I have got them taking Abdul Carter. I think this is pretty much the consensus pick at this point. Tennessee have just been collecting young quarterbacks over the last few years. They haven't amounted to anything. Malik Willis, Will Levis has struggled in 2 years. They need to build a team. Who are the players that they can hang the hat on apart from Jeffrey Simmons? They need to build a structure, not just keep taking young quarterbacks, planting another one into the team, watching them fail, doing it again. So I think the best thing they can do is take the best player available in this spot. Abdul Carter, 66 pressures in his final season at Penn State. I went through all of the top pass rushers who are in the NFL at the moment. How many pressures did they get in their final season in college football? Nobody had more than Abdul Carter. He was level with Nick Bosa in his last full season at Ohio State. That speaks to his potential. The Titans should not be tempted with the quarterbacks. I don't even think they should try and trade down. I think just take Abdul Carter and call it a job well done. Cleveland at number 2. Again, this is going to be another spot where people say, should they draft a quarterback? Should this be a spot where a quarterback goes? I don't think it should be. I don't have Cam Ward or Shadur Sanders ranked as legit first-round picks. I am going to put one of them in the top 10. It will be with a second-round grade. I think this is going to come down to teams deciding how much they want to reach for a quarterback. I think the Browns are in a bit of a transition period. And I think they will believe that they need to play not a long game, not like a 5-year plan, but sort of like maybe a 2 or 3 year plan to essentially just draw a line under the Deshaun Watson farce, move on, and they don't necessarily have to draft a quarterback at number 2. So what I think they might do, Kirk Cousins is going to get cut by the Falcons. He's going to be in a Russell Wilson situation where, because of the money owed to him from Atlanta, he will be able to go and take a veteran minimum contract to play somewhere else. Kevin Stefanski had 2 very decent years with Kirk Cousins in Minnesota. So they've got that working relationship there. He maybe finished Kirk Cousins physically, but you take the chance at Cleveland. You say, okay, we're paying Deshaun Watson all of this money. We're going to get Kirk Cousins at the cheapest cost imaginable for a year. We'll see how it goes. In the meantime, let's just refresh some aspects of this roster. They've got to maybe just refresh things a little bit in terms of their running game and their offensive line. They've got to go and add some talent in certain places. We saw that they could be very competitive the year before this one with Joe Flacco at quarterback. So maybe they can be competitive again with Kirk Cousins at quarterback in a system that he knows. And then in a year's time, you reassess. If you don't have the greatest year, maybe you take a quarterback next year instead when it's a better class. So I think that's what the Browns will do. Therefore, I have them taking Travis Hunter here. He will probably play a bit of cornerback or a lot of cornerback and then play a bit of wide receiver, I should say. I think that's what the pick I've got them taking at number 2. So as you can see, moving down, I have got the Giants taking Cam Ward at number 3. I do not think Cam Ward really warrants the 3rd overall pick. I've seen him play live. I think that is the best thing you can do. Obviously, I live in the United Kingdom, so I can't go and watch all of these top quarterbacks play live all around America, but I have had the opportunity to watch Cam Ward play live. When I watched him play live, I personally did not think he looked like a first-round pick in the slightest. And a year ago, he didn't get invited to the Senior Bowl. He was basically graded in the 5th and 6th round by most teams. He declared for the draft and then reneged on that and then went back to college football as a consequence of all of this. And fair play to him. He has really improved his stock at Miami. I just wonder a little bit how much of that is a review of the situation in the ACC. Can he play in a functioning NFL offense? He wants to throw it down the field a lot. He wants to play backyard football. When his teams get under a bit of pressure, that tends to be when the mistakes are made, that he tries to force things a little bit. He's got this really bad habit of drifting backwards, even when there's just free open runners, that he just go through your progressions, check it down, get the ball out, take what's there. He won't do that. He will linger on targets, fade backwards. He's then got sort of defenders chasing after him, and then he gets himself into trouble. There was that horrible interception he had thrown across his body. That's when mistakes tend to happen. That said, character-wise, everything seems to be off the charts. There is some physical talent there. And the Giants are at a stage now with this regime, with this GM, with this head coach, where unlike the Browns, because Kevin Stefanski's won Coach of the Year twice. Like he seems pretty solid. Like nobody's blaming him for what's happened with Deshaun Watson. The Giants feel like they're a bit under pressure. And I think kicking the can down the road at quarterback again for another year and, trying to get a cheaper veteran or a Sam Darnold or someone or whatever in free agency, it's just not going to cut it. The Giants need some hope of a young quarterback. So I think that they will force this pick. Like I say, Cam Ward will not be at the top of their draft board in terms of a grade, but I think they're going to end up taking him at number 3. So that's what I've gone with there. New England at number 4, Tyler Warren. Now, it kind of confused me for about a month where Seahawks fans were talking about the prospect of taking Tyler Warren at 18, which was never going to happen in a million years. I've had Tyler Warren in the top 10 in my last 2 mocks. My last one was before Christmas. And it's been pretty obvious, I think, to anybody who's watched Tyler Warren that he was going to be a top 10 lock. He's too good. Too much of a playmaker, too much of an all-round tight end. We have seen Kyle Pitts go 4th overall. Tyler Warren is a better talent. Kyle Pitts had maybe better physical potential. Tyler Warren is a better player than Kyle Pitts. So if Kyle Pitts can go 4th overall, Tyler Warren can. The Patriots in this situation, they're going to be looking preferably for the trenches, but who are you taking here? Will Campbell had a bad year for LSU. I think I've watched every game that LSU played last season because I was watching Garrett Nussmeier. And Campbell didn't play well. Neither of the tackles played well at all season. And he has short arms. So I couldn't personally take Will Campbell 4th overall. Mason Graham is somebody that they could potentially take. I don't think defensive tackle is the biggest need in the world for New England. Now, with the thing about the tight end, Tyler Warren here is watch what he did with Drew Aller this season. He became Drew Aller's, not just his number 1 target, like he was his only target. Like he just went to Tyler Warren all the time. So while it would be great for Drake May to maybe have like a receiver that he bonds with who can be his number 1 receiver, Tyler Warren can be that guy. He can be his answer to Rob Gronkowski. And of all the teams in the league, the Patriots know the value of a tight end like this. So people might go, that's too early. That's not going to happen. I'm just telling you, I think if it shakes out this way, there is a legit chance that Tyler Warren will be the 4th overall pick. They can look at offensive line in round 2, the Patriots, and round 3, and in free agency. I think there's a real chance that Tyler Warren's going to be a top 5 pick. At number 5, Ashton Jeanty. This will probably be another pick that people go, that isn't going to happen. Look, Ashton Jeanty is unbelievable. He will, in terms of pure grade, will be at the top of a lot of boards. He will have the highest grades. It will be between him and Abdul Carter, I think, and ahead of Hunter. I think he is that good. The thing that will keep him on the board longer will be positional value, and I totally get it. But when you have rare, brilliant talents at running back, Bijan Robinson being the last one that I can remember who went, was it 7th overall? They do tend to go very early. And having watched what Liam Cohen did in Tampa Bay, it was running the ball superbly. So Jacksonville in a draft class where there's not an obvious top 5 pick for them sat here in this position, they may well just go, we can run our offense through Ashton Jeanty, and that he can be the main man for Jacksonville, and that they're quite happy to do that. And I do think if you have someone like Jeanty who can be that main guy, take a bit of the pressure off Trevor Lawrence, that to me just makes a degree of sense. Like you've got the framework of a plan there. So I get that running back is not Jacksonville's biggest need. I understand that Jaguars fans who may stumble across this video by accident will be shouting at me, or some of them will be. I'm telling you, Ashton Jeanty is legit. And in a draft without legit first-round players and blue-chip players, Ashton Jeanty is one of the few of them. So I do think he's going to go a bit earlier than people think. Las Vegas at number 6, Will Johnson, the cornerback at Michigan. Like he had a bit of a weird season. He was injured. There was a lot of hope for Will Johnson. He was considered as a contender to perhaps be the best player in this draft. going into the season. And it didn't really work for Michigan, and it didn't really work for him. And he didn't have an amazing year. But let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater here. He is an incredible talent. He has excellent character. And I've seen people sort of questioning him and knocking him and say, oh, his tackling's not very good. He's one of the best players in this draft. And if there's one thing that Pete Carroll really likes, it's extremely talented defensive backs. So in this kind of situation here, I can easily see him going, Will Johnson is, high ceiling and has got a lot of potential, and he could work with him and he could turn him into one of the best cornerbacks in the NFL. And I think it's a smart fit for the Raiders. Colston Loveland at number 7 to the Jets. Now, you could swap 7 and 8 around, and you could say, well, give Mason Graham to the Jets. They need another defensive tackle in there. Give Colston Loveland to the Carolina Panthers. I think they need as many weapons as they can get for Bryce Young, whatever. Colston Loveland is becoming underrated. Again, Michigan didn't have a great season. They had no passing game to speak of, and he got lost in the wash. Colston Loveland is one of the best players in this draft. Teams will have him graded amongst the best players in this draft. They will have him probably with a legit first-round grade. So I think because he maybe doesn't have the stature of Tyler Warren, because Tyler Warren's had this prolific year, people have started to sleep a little bit on Colston Loveland. The NFL will love Colston Loveland, I'm telling you now. And there's every chance for him to come into the league. He's not going to be Brock Bowers. Nobody is. Could he be Sam Laporta, perhaps even a better version of Sam Laporta? Yes. He can be very, very good. Where have the Jets just taken their head coach and their offensive coordinator from? The Detroit Lions. So as they build this thing, they need to acquire talent. Colston Loveland could be the highest graded player on the board at this point. I'm telling you, that's how the league will view these things. And as I said, Graham might have a higher grade, but Loveland is going to be graded very, very highly. And as they build things, as they acquire talent, teams are going to like Colston Loveland a lot more than the internet is saying. So just don't sleep on him. There is a chance that both of the top 2 tight ends could go in the top 10. Mason Graham at number 8. I really like Mason Graham. Whenever I watched Michigan the last 2 years, he was excellent. I think he had the second best pass rush win percentage, not this 2024 season, but in 2023, behind only Byron Murphy. He is an excellent player. I've been putting him, definitely in the top 4 for a large period. I read something a few days ago that said there may be a few concerns about his frame, and it did just make me pause for thought a little bit, because he is built like a bowling ball. He's not got sort of the prototype body. You look at Byron Murphy, he's got the prototype body for a 3 technique. Mason Graham doesn't. So for that reason, I'm just putting a pin in his stock for now, because he has to test well. And if he doesn't test well, it makes you wonder how a team's going to view the frame. If he runs well, if his agility testing is good, if he has good drills at the combine, they'll just go, what the hell? I don't care. Especially if he's got 33-inch arms, we're just going to put him in the top 5 anyway. And he will move up again in my board. But until he's done the testing, I've just had to drop him a little bit, just because he does not have the prototype body of a top tier defensive tackle. Luther Burden, number 9 to New Orleans. Again, there's a theme here with the Colston Lovelands and people like that. And obviously the cornerback from Michigan as well, Johnson. Luther Burden did not have a productive year for Missouri. Don't really understand why that happened, because he had been productive in the past, but he kind of just fell off the face of the earth with Missouri. They really struggled to get him involved. But going into the year, there was, again, a feeling that he might be the best player in the draft, or that he's one of the best players in the draft. And although he's not had the production in this Missouri offense, maybe he wasn't that suited to, I think when it actually comes to the pure grading situation and what are you getting with Luther Burden, I think he's going to be very, very, very highly graded. So I've seen a lot of mocks with him sort of late in the first round and stuff like that. I don't think there's any chance of that happening. I think he's going to go in the top 15. He's too good to fall that far. And I think by the time we get to April, teams will, if there are any teams saying, yeah, but he didn't do anything last year, I think the coaches maybe some of the scouts will get in and they'll start banging the table for him and saying he's a really talented player. It's not really his fault that it didn't really work out for him this year in Missouri. On to Chicago, number 10, Armand Membu. It does seem to be, as I mentioned in the article, that it's trending this way. A number of people are putting him this early. I was hesitant to put him this early just because of the size. Like, he's 6'3". He is built like a guard. And my sort of thought process was, I don't think a player who's going to have to kick inside at his size is going to suddenly find himself going in the top 10. But the more I watched on the tape and the more that I watched his aggressive style of blocking and his footwork, you just think, yeah, maybe there is a chance that he's going to go very, very early. He apparently, according to Bruce Feldman, can run a 1.63 10-yard split. If he does that at the combine, there is every chance that he's going to go in the top 10. The Bears need to completely fix their offensive line. I suspect that's going to be a priority for Ben Johnson. So put Membo to number 10 with Chicago. I will say this, though. I'm not having that he had a stomach flu or whatever it was described. What is a stomach flu anyway? Like, an upset stomach? Is he on the throne? Is he pebble dashing the toilet all the time? What is a stomach flu? To me, it was like, we've seen Daniel Jeremiah's mock draft and we're not doing anything to the Senior Bowl. And I thought it was a poor show. And and we'll talk about this a bit more. If you were going to go to the Senior Bowl, commit to it. Don't take somebody else's spot and then pull out at the last minute or halfway through the week. San Francisco at number 11, Mikael Williams, a player who had the physical potential to get into the first overall mix at the start of the year. Didn't happen for him, was injured for a bit of the season, but he did have flashes. He was one of the players who really flashed against Texas in the first game against Texas, for example. And he has got lots of that inside-out ability. He has got limitless upside, but he's just not been able to, one, stay healthy, and two, put it together over a consistent stretch of games. The Niners, when they were getting to Super Bowls, had unbelievable defensive lines. And now their defensive line has almost been reduced in terms of star talent to just Nick Bosa. So I can see a situation where they start to rebuild and pump resources into that defensive line. And maybe they will take Mikael Williams here at number 11 if he's available. Number 12 in Dallas, Shamar Stewart. He is a nearly man on tape. There are so many plays on tape where he just doesn't get to the quarterback in time. He just doesn't make the play. He just doesn't get the pressure or the sack or the hit on the QB. But there's no doubt in that. He's incredibly tall. He's about 285 pounds with no body fat. He is an engaging personality that teams are going to like when they sit down in a meeting with him and interview him. And I think if he tests well at the combine at his size, then teams are going to think, yeah, okay, he was a bit of a Neely man in college. So was Danielle Hunter. We're going to take a chance on this guy and hope that, like Hunter, he can have 100 sacks in the NFL. So I think there's a chance that he will go this early. And I've got him going number 12 to Dallas. Number 13, Kelvin Banks is a funny one because for a large part during the college season, everyone was like, he's the top left tackle. He's the best defensive lineman in the draft. And now there are more and more people going, well, yeah, he didn't play that well and stuff like this. And I don't really understand the shift in dynamics. I don't think his play really tailed off at all. Like, he's always been who he is. He had some injuries at the end of the season. It'd be fair to mention that he was banged up, and maybe that impacted his play in a couple of games. But I still think he's a quality offensive lineman. I never thought he was a legit top 10 player. I've always thought that he'd be better suited to guard with the way that he plays and with his frame. And for me, he reminds me a bit of Elijah Vera Tucker in that you can watch snaps of him at left tackle and think it's pretty good. But you also think, yeah, but he could be an even better guard. So I think with Miami, they have needs across their offensive line. They could try him at left tackle. They could try him at right tackle. They could try him at guard. They have lots of options there. I think in this draft class, we're going to see some of these offensive linemen go pretty quickly because it is such a need in the NFL. Indianapolis and Jalen Walker. Throughout the first, 2 months of the college football season, Jalen Walker looked like a top 10 lock. And then his play just kind of tailed off. He wasn't having as much impact later in the season. This is a guy who can line up pretty much anywhere at linebacker. He can rush the edge. Abdul Carter kind of transitioned from linebacker to edge rusher. Jalen Walker was more linebacker who reduces down and will go to the edge on third down. But they've kind of got the same traits. Jalen Walker's just like a little bit of a lesser version of Abdul Carter. So it will be interesting to see where he goes. And I do think sort of the middle of the first round at the moment, short before testing, is kind of a good place to place him in a mock draft. The Colts need to they need a spark. The linebackers are not good enough. They're a bit noisy. Obviously, they need a lot of help in the secondary as well, but the value's not there for me compared to someone like Walker. So I had them taking Walker here at 14. Walter Nolan at 15. First of all, well done to Walter Nolan for sticking out the week at the Senior Bowl and doing all 3 days of practice. He was very quick in the 1v1s. He is not big, but he has just enough length. And I think he's kind of a very disruptive defensive tackle whose best football is probably ahead of him. And teams are always looking for 3 techniques. They're always looking for these kind of players who can collapse the middle. So I would not be surprised if Walter Nolan went this early. I also wouldn't be that surprised if some other players over the course of the next 6 weeks jump ahead of him. So I think testing for him is going to be very, very important. If you are going to be his size, you have to be quick. You have to be dynamic. And there are other defensive linemen who are going to be that at the combine. So he's going to have to keep up with them. Will Campbell at number 16. I've already mentioned him. I thought he had a massively overrated season. I think most games that I watched for LSU, Garrett Nussmeier was getting hammered from both sides. His pass protection wasn't very good. He doesn't play with enough aggression. What he is an unbelievable athlete, but he's got 32-inch arms, so he probably can't stick at left tackle. The Titans took Peter Skoronsky from Northwestern, very, very early. 32-inch arms at left tackle. He's had to kick inside to guard, and they had to draft another tackle a year later. So, when I watch him, I think if you're going to play him at left guard, he's going to get aggressive. He's going to be more aggressive than he is. And there are better pure guards in this draft class than him. So really, what is putting him in the top 10 at the minute other than hype and athleticism? I just don't see it. And I do think he is somebody who, as we go along, might end up settling in more as a player with some second-round grades. I think some teams are going to have second-round grades on Will Campbell. And some will say, we need to take an offensive lineman, so we don't care. And that's what I've got kind of happening here with Arizona at 16. He ain't as good as people think. 17, Cincinnati. Jahdae Barrett, one of the most fun players to watch this season for Texas. Didn't really do anything in the playoffs, which was a bit of a surprise. Makuba, the safety, had a much bigger impact in the playoffs than Barron did. But very good player, great character. I think his run defense for his size is really impressive, and teams will love that. But he has got a bit of playmaking to him as well. Cincinnati need some defenders. They've fired their defensive coordinator. They've made changes there. They need an injection of defensive talent into their roster. So Barron could be that guy. Seahawks are number 18. I think Tyler Booker is the perfect pick, and I don't think anything's going to change that between now and the end of April. They need a plug and play left guard. And when I just don't, I think people are overthinking it when they criticize Tyler Booker. His 2023 tape was sensational, extremely aggressive. He was the first player I wrote up on the blog for the process going into 2024. I did that over the summer. Aggressive, moves very well, can progress up to the second level, pulling very, very good, set the tone up front, great size, but great size in proportion. He's not a sloppy 330 pounds or whatever he is. It all looks like it's put together. And this is a 5-star recruit who's been on a trajectory to be in the NFL from very early in his life. An unbelievable character guy. He was described by Daniel Jeremiah as the Will Anderson of offense, essentially, speaking to his character. And the Seahawks loved Will Anderson, and Will Anderson was a great leader. And it just seems you're just ticking every box. It's a need. The talent matches the pick. The character side of things that the Seahawks look for is there. They need a left guard. You can plug him in and play him week 1. I think he can play any scheme. If you want to run the football, you need a guy like this. He's going to be a terrific run blocker at the next level. The only concern for me is he going to make it to number 18? Because while there's a whole bunch of people out there who seem to say, late first, early second type of thing, there's a whole bunch of mocks coming out these days that have him off the board by 18. And that worries me a little bit. It worries me because I want to see him in navy blue next year. And I think he's the perfect pick. I do not think there is going to be anybody who's a better fit. Just stick him in at left guard. He will instantly improve the Seahawks offensive line. And I've said in this article that he can be Seattle's modern day Steve Hutchinson. Like, when you start comparing a player to Steve Hutchinson, you're asking for trouble, and I appreciate that. And I am not suggesting for a second that he's going to be a Hall of Famer, Tyler Booker. But what I am suggesting is that he can be an excellent left guard. Drafted, Hutchinson was at number 17. This is number 18. He can come in and have that kind of an impact. So I would do it. And the other thing is, people will say, oh, the value of guards at this level. And people are going to go, well, you could take a different player here and get a guard at 50. There is no way I am waiting until 50 to see what's left at guard. No way. Because if there's a big rush on them at the start of the second round, at the end of the first, what do you do then? You're back to, oh, well, we'll take a Christian Haynes in round 3. There is no way. If Tyler Booker's on the board at 18, there's no way I'm fudging that on the hope that somebody's going to be there at 50. No chance. I am sticking and I am picking him and I'm taking it and I'm improving this offensive line because it badly needs it. And people talking about the value of a guard here. Do you know what? And what John Schneider said a year ago about the overpaid and overdrafted? Well, he may even change his opinion a little bit when there are players getting $20 million a year, like Robert Hunt and Damian Lewis is getting what he's doing. All of a sudden, you've got to think, right, do you want to get into that market? Do you want to sign an average offensive lineman for an elite salary? Or do you want to go and draft somebody and pay him a rookie contract instead, like Tyler Booker? And I think it's a no-brainer. If he's there at 18, just run to the freaking podium and take him. Anyway, number 19, Tampa Bay. James Pierce can't set an edge. That's going to be an issue. Might be seen as a pass rush specialist only at the moment, but his 22.7% pass rush win percentage shows that he can win as a pass rusher. So he's another player who people thought could be number 1 overall pick going into the season. Didn't play up to that level, but he can rush the passer. So I think the one thing Tampa Bay need is someone who could come screaming off the edge, even if it's just on third downs next season. So that is somebody that could fit for them. Number 20, Denver, Tatiro McMillan. Very natural receiver. Looks very, very natural in terms of his body movements, how he tracks the ball. He can make very difficult catches, contorting his body in the air. Great hands. The only thing with him, and this is why I've got him last until 20s, I just don't know how well he's going to test. I think he's on the record saying his vertical is not very good. It's like a 32-inch vertical or something, which for receivers, you expect it to be much higher. How fast is he going to run? That's going to be another thing. These are the aspects that could keep him on the board to this kind of range. Denver do need, they need tight end, they need receiver. They've got some other needs as well. But I think, in terms of value here at 20, this could be a good pick for them. 21, Shadur Sanders. And people are going to go, you've got Shadur Sanders too late. Yeah, what have you got him lasting to 21 for? Listen, there are things to like about Shadur Sanders. I think he threw some very pretty passes in 2024. He clearly has got some balls because for 2 straight years, he stood in that pocket, took some big hits. They had a terrible offensive line in 2023 and an average offensive line in 2024. And he took some hits and he kept throwing the ball. He has elevated Colorado with his dad to levels that they've not seen in a long, long time. And these are all things you have to respect. Here's the other thing, though. He's not an amazing athlete. He doesn't have a crazy arm. And he is not somebody that you sort of watch and think, wow, this is a special talent. And you just wonder a little bit when he gets to the next level, is he just going to look a bit average, I'm afraid. And there's all sorts of things about him as well. Like he scrambles too much. He needs to take what's there and sort of learn that that's what it's going to have to be in the NFL. He's not going to be able to sort of scramble around, try and extend plays. He's just going to get sacked in the NFL because he's not the Pac-12 or the Big 12 anymore. So that's an aspect of it. And the other thing is, I think his dad has been sort of made aware that this sort of idea that he was going to pick where his son went was for the birds. That he is not the level of talent where father and son can get together and say, I am not playing for this team, which is kind of what was being suggested during the season. I think the dad has probably done the homework, or the agents have, and they've found out that the league just doesn't view Shadur that way, and therefore they're just going to have to accept where he goes. But the damage may be done with some teams. Do they want sort of the noise that comes with Shadur? And it's not just the fact that he is the name that he is, and that his dad is going to get asked about his son at every single press conference that he does during the season for Colorado. It's little things. It's stuff like Coach Prime and son of Prime going after former teammates on social media a year ago. The Sun releasing some very weird audio to go along with that didn't make any sense. These are all things that have been, for a good year, there was a lot of noise around Shador. He's going to dictate where he goes. He's criticizing ex-teammates on social media with his dad. The team is no longer playing the band are not playing the anthem of Colorado. When he scores a touchdown, they're playing his rap song instead. There's a lot of things like this that just teams just going to go, do we really need this? Do we want this? Are we getting a celebrity quarterback here? What are we doing? And I think it might just, when the talent's not that good, it kind of makes you think, yeah, maybe not. And that's why I think Pittsburgh would be a perfect home for him. Coach Prime is not going to get after Mike Tomlin. Mike Tomlin could be the perfect head coach to sort of help and guide Shador through this next stage of his career. And he gets to go to a team that is, it is a playoff team. So I think this could be perfect for him. It could be perfect for the Steelers. I think it's a really good fit all round. And I think he might last a bit longer than people realize. That we might just see the one quarterback going in the top 10. Chargers at 22, Mike Green. I'm going to try and keep this brief because I've got a lot of thoughts on Mike Green. I thought his Senior Bowl was absolutely overrated. He kept, in the 1v1s, kept resorting to this spin move, which was completely predictable, which was shut down constantly. And you were just, will you just rush the edge? Just rush the edge and show us some speed. Show us some counters off that speed. Let's see speed to power. Let's see, if you're going to use the spin move, try it as a sort of a counter when you get stoned. Don't just run up to the blocker and try a spin move. Like, it was absolutely frustrating as heck. And then he just had one play where he ran to Josh Connolly Jr., the Oregon tackle, was playing right tackle, not left, which is his more natural place. Connolly's footwork was terrible. He became off balance, and Mike Green ran through him. It's a good rep for Mike Green. There's no denying about it. It looks fantastic on social media. Everybody's talking about it. But to say, that's it, job done, I'm going home after Wednesday at the Senior Bowl off the back of that one rep in 1v1s was BS. And you are taking up the spot that somebody could have had there for a full week of work. And there are guys out there who have completely maxed this out. The UCLA pass rusher, Darius Alexander, David Walker from Central Arkansas, who have given absolutely bloody everything this week. And there's probably other guys who would have done the same. And you deciding you're going to pop over for a couple of days of this and then head home because you had one good rep, I think it's bang out of order. And I don't think it's going to affect his draft stock that much. Teams want pass rushers. He's got a 20.1% pass rush win percentage. He got 17 sacks for Marshall last year. Teams are going to be interested in him in the first round. I just thought that was, I think he had an overrated week for me. I don't think he played that well in the 1v1s, just on that one rep, which is, this is what happens. The groupthink and the overhyping that comes out of the Senior Bowl, because there are just so many people who attend. There's so many people who are watching it on the internet, and something like that one clip goes viral, and everybody just jumps on board and says, right, that's it, he's amazing, he's going to be a top 10 pick or whatever. And it's nonsense. And you've got to remember, he's got 32-inch arms. Like, he's more like Vic Beasley in body type, but without Vic, I think Vic Beasley had 34-inch arms or something. Like, he had unnatural length, but was small. Mike Green reminds me of that kind of pass rusher. Tell me how many pass rushers have his size who are brilliant in the NFL. There are not many. So I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure. And there was something that Todd McShay, he didn't name any names, but he said that, if you are going to leave the Senior Bowl, and he accepted it happens, do it in the right way. And he was implying that somebody had gone to the media before telling Jim Nagy that they were going to call it quits after 2 days. And I remember reading from someone on the ESPN draft crew that he was heading home before I saw anything else from anybody else. And it looks as if the agents have just gone to ESPN and gone, yeah, he's done. He's done. He had that great rep against Josh Conley, and he's done. It just left a sour taste in my mouth. Green Bay at 23. Yeah, I know Packers don't take receivers this early. Well, do you know what? It's a bit like Seattle and offensive linemen. Eventually, you've got to pivot. You can't be stuck to, we're just going to keep taking later round receivers or second round receivers or whatever like that, because that's what we do in Green Bay. You've got to go and get somebody for Jordan Love. And the thing about Matthew Golden is fantastic season last year. Deserves to go in this kind of range. I think it'd be a great pick for the Packers there. 24, Minnesota. Kenneth Graham. a player that, a lot of people see the highlights of Kenneth Grant. You can go on social media now. Someone will have a 30, 40-second cut up of Kenneth Grant pass rush wins for Michigan, and he looks like a top 5 pick. And there's no disputing that. I mean, he's 340 pounds. He's apparently going to have an amazing combine. And if you just watch the highlights, you'd think, yeah, he's an unbelievable player. Like he's going to be like Jalen Carter or something. The reality is, when you actually watch full games and you scout players every week and you watch most of Michigan's games, which I did last year, his play was massively underwhelming. He did not make enough plays. He was often, you'd forget he were there. He's playing next to Mason Graham, who was disruptive for most of the season. So you think, right, you've got the benefit of playing next to Mason Graham. Can we see a bit more, please, Kenneth? Often his best players were just working across the line to string out runs. He wasn't winning 1v1 up front. And I thought he had a massively underwhelming year. And to me, he just looks like a player who needs a massive kick up the arse all the time. And that is going to matter. So, yeah, he has got the athleticism. Yes, he has got the size. But teams do not want to, one, be watching his weight. They don't want to be trying to motivate him all the time. They want someone who's going to be driven and determined to be the best with the first-round pick. And I think that's just a question mark for me. Has Kenneth Grant got that in him? And I don't know if he has, which is why he may end up going sort of late first or second round instead of much higher. Because, yeah, it's all right having the tools, but it's like, are you pissed off for greatness? And I'm not sure that he is. So we'll see what happens with him. Donovan Jackson at 25. Look, he was a couple of years ago, the feeling was he's a first-round potential, that he could come out into the 2024 draft and be a first-round pick with a good 2023. He struggled in 2023. His play regressed. He was looking like a mid-round pick. That's where I had him on the board. He didn't go pro. He went back to Ohio State. To his credit, 4 or 5 weeks into the season, he's back at left guard. He's playing tremendously well. He's looking like a first-round pick again. Then the left tackle gets injured. He has to switch over and go and play left tackle. It was tough for a few weeks. Once he'd sort of worked things out, he was really good in the playoffs. Like, he might have been their MVP in the playoffs, more so than the receiver, more so than the quarterback, more so than Jack Sawyer, because he did a job at left tackle. And I don't think you can underestimate that. He is a very, very talented player. He's not freaky athletic, but he's very athletic. He will be an explosive tester at the combine. And he deserves to go in this kind of range. And if Tyler Booker is not there at 18, Donovan Jackson could be a great alternative for the Seahawks number 18, in my opinion. LA Rams, Nick Emanwari, the safety from South Carolina, unbelievable athlete. He is going to be one of the top testers at the combine. He can pretty much be anything. He can be Hamilton in the Ravens, but maybe an even more athletic version. I don't know if fundamentally, football-wise, he's as natural a talent as Kyle Hamilton, but he's an amazing player. And the interceptions, it's not just a big burly safety who can get downfield and hit you and make tackles. It's the range, it's the ground that he covers quickly. Just an unbelievable weapon. So he could go earlier than this. Malachi Starks, number 27. I think sort of a month into the season, everyone assumed he'd be a top 12 pick because that's how he was playing. And then as the year went on, you were just like, oh, he's given that reception up. And no, that wasn't very good for Malachi Starks. And he's not done anything for a few weeks that's actually that positive. And by the end of the year, you were kind of thinking, what happened to that good player from the year before and the start of the season? He kind of just disappeared. So there is talent there, but it was a very difficult second half of the season for Malachi Starks. So I think he could last on the board. Baltimore are going to be in the market for a safety. Are they going to go after someone like Morrigan, free agency from the Raiders, or are they going to go and draft somebody? I don't think it's beyond the realms of possibility that Malachi Starks lasts to them. Jack Sawyer to Detroit at 28. I don't think many people are going to have Jack Sawyer graded in round 1, but we're now getting to a point in this draft in particular where teams are going to be taking second round talents in the first round. And the thing about Jack Sawyer is, even though he's from Ohio State, even though he won't even say the name Michigan when he talks about it, he says the team up north, like a lot of people who follow Ohio State. Like, he's mad passionate Ohio State fan from childhood to playing for the team and everything like that. It might be difficult for him to come play in Michigan for Detroit, but isn't he just the perfect fit for that team? Crossum Aiden Hutchinson, his attitude, the way that he plays the game, it's just so easy to see him playing for Dan Campbell in Detroit. And given that if Detroit are picking 15th, I won't be putting him at 15, but 28th, or maybe they'd trade down a few spots and take him. It's just, they need somebody else on the edge. It's just very easy to put Jack Sawyer with the Detroit Lions. So that's what I did there. And they've taken their guys where they want to and been criticized for it in the past. That would be a very similar move to that. Josh Simmons, the tackle from Ohio State, goes to 29 to Washington. Josh Simmons is the best left tackle in this draft. If he didn't have the knee injury, he'd be a top 15 pick. It's how can you... I have mocked him that high, but now that we're getting into the draft season, I want to see how he is going to be medically cleared when we get to combine time and what the word is from the reports around him to how teams view him. Because if the knee's in a good place, then he goes very early. If there's question marks or if it's going to take a bit of time, if he maybe has to redshirt or if he's going to miss half a season, then he could last to this kind of range. But this would be a good pick for Washington if they do believe in the medicals, because they need a long-term left tackle, and he has got legit franchise left tackle potential. Jahad Campbell at number 30 for Buffalo. Can't wait to see how he tests. Very talented player. Could go higher than this. The way that he moved in the open field to drop in coverage, to run to the line, to work in space, to go sideline to sideline. Very impressive for a man his size. Quite high cut. Whether or not he is maybe a bit too much like a tank sometimes for the NFL, I don't know. But I didn't see any issues with that on tape at Alabama. Very good player. Deserves to go in the first round. I've got Gray Zabel going 31st to Philadelphia. Now, I thought the talk around Gray Zabel's Senior Bowl, it was... I don't think hype is a sufficient word for it. It's whatever is beyond hype, then times it by 10. It was too much. It was too much because when you were watching the 1v1s, people were doing what they always do. And it's happened. It happened with John Michael Schmidt. He's a first rounder. He's a lock. He's going to go in the top 20 and all this. And he went in the second round. And then Jackson Powers Johnson was the other one a year ago. Like, he's amazing. Look at these amazing reps that he's had. He's unstoppable. He's going to go in the first. Will he be there for the Seahawks? All that stuff. He goes in the second round. People were getting carried away again, getting so carried away, looking at 1v1s, saying that this is a great win as he's getting shoved back into the quarterback. He'd have a good rep. I'm not saying that every rep was bad, but then he'd have a bad rep and no one would talk about that because, well, I think they'd all decided that Gray Zabel was the big winner this week. And it just went on all bloody week. And it happened in the game as well. Like in the game I've watched today, the Senior Bowl game, he had some really good blocks. Then he'd have a couple of iffy ones and no one would talk about it. Like they had like tunnel vision to the good moments of Gray Zabel and not the bad moments. Now, it was beneficial for me to just lean into all of this Gray Zabel hype because as someone who has been talking him up for a long time now, one of my favorite players in the draft, someone that I've sent private messages to people who I talked to about the NFL saying, look, you've got to check this Gray Zabel guy out. This was weeks before the Senior Bowl and they'll vouch for it. I've been talking this guy up. This is a really interesting player. So for me, it would just be easy to go, yeah, I've been saying Gray Zabel's amazing forever. Aren't I great? But that's not what I saw at the Senior Bowl. I saw a decent week with a lot of good reps and also some that show that technically he's got a lot to work on. Like he does have to get his hands consistently inside. He does need to be more aggressive off the snap if he's going to play center and shoot those hands a bit quicker, but then shoot them into the right place. He needs to work on his angles a little bit. It was made out like he had a flawless week and was unstoppable. That was not the case at all. But what he has got is he is tenacious. He is a scrappy offensive lineman. He can maneuver players out of position to turn them, to open up running lanes. He can plant the anchor. I do like the base that he plays with. He does not have long arms. That could be an issue for him, but he can reach the second level and he can block in space. So, and he can play a different position. Some people think he's best at center. Some people think guard. Some people think he could play tackle if needed in the way that they say Joe Tooney's playing left tackle at the minute for the Chiefs. If you need Gray's able to play a couple of games at left tackle, right tackle, he might be able to do it. So there's a lot to like there. Why have I got him to Philadelphia? It's not a big need, but Mekhi Becton is a free agent. And if he moves on, then maybe they insert someone like Gray Zabel into right guard. Kansas City, Josh Connolly. It's been a problem all year left tackle for the Chiefs. And I didn't think Connolly, he was given sort of the award from the players for the best defensive lineman on his roster at the Senior Bowl. I don't really understand that personally. I didn't think he had a great week. I don't think he boosted his stock much in Mobile with the way that he played. I mean, he got easily beaten by Darius Alexander on a rush. He's 304 pounds, playing at left tackle, and Darius Alexander beat him. And then obviously there's the Mike Green play as well. And there was a couple of other moments. So I don't think he was all that this week, but he still has the tools to go in that kind of range. Right, I'm going to try and quickly go through round two because I appreciate this is a 45-minute video already, and I'm not sure how many people want to listen to me rambling on for another 45 minutes. Round two, then Cleveland, Jackson Dart. Look, I don't get it with Jackson Dart. I don't. I've got a 3rd round grade on him. I watched his footage of him at the Senior Bowl. I didn't see anything special at all. I went back this week because people have been saying he's going to be a 1st round pick and all of this and blah. Could he challenge to be QB2? And I thought, this doesn't chime with anything that I watched during the season at Ole Miss. So I need to go back and watch some. So I was up stupidly late last night, far later than I should be. I need to get a life, I know. Reviewing Jackson Dart tape. Have I missed something here? And the answer is no. Go and watch the Kentucky game. Go and watch the Florida game. People have been sort of, could the Seahawks take him at number 18? They won't take him at number 18. I don't know where this hype is coming from. Maybe his agents are very, very good and believe that a buzz and a hype will get things going. I saw Jarrett Stidham. I think there's something there's just enough there to make you think, oh, there's something in this guy. But then you just see some, and you think, no, there's not. You know, I think he is a product of the offense as much as he pushed back on that all week. I think that he can be hesitant. I think he has sort of moments in games you think, what are you doing? I don't think he's a great runner, but he's a good runner, not a great runner, but often will set off running thinking he is a great runner and then doesn't make the play. So I just don't see it. I don't think he's special. And I don't think he's a 1st round pick. I don't understand where the hype's coming from. But if there is anything in it, maybe he is going to go early in round 2. Or maybe he will sneak into the bottom end of the 1st round. Just not having it. So I put him at 33 to Cleveland. Travion Henderson is getting a ton of buzz. Like, people are saying he could go in the 1st round. People are thinking he might run like a 4.3 at the combine. He had a timeshare thing going on at Ohio State. It was hard to get a real proper gauge on how good he actually is, but the league seems to love him. So if that is true, and if he does test well at the combine, he could go this early. Mason Taylor, unbelievable player. Thought he had a great year for LSU, had a great Senior Bowl, bloodlines, everything. I think he's definitely going to go in this range. TJ Sanders at Jacksonville, I thought had a fairly disappointing Senior Bowl. He was okay in the first day. Second day, just didn't look right. He had a new helmet on for some reason. And I think he took himself out of the 1v1s quite early. And then we didn't see him again. And I don't think we saw him on day 3. I think I'm right in saying. I just thought it was a chance for him to really maybe separate from Walter Nolan or show that he's the guy. And he didn't take it. So I've gone from putting him in round 1 to sort of nearer the top end of round 2. But he has shown he can wreck games. You know, he has shown he can be an impact pass rusher. He wrecked Georgia in 2023, which is no mean feat with their offensive line. So there's some talent there. Trey Harris, Las Vegas at 37. We know that Pete Carroll loves a big receiver. They need a number 1 target. I think they're going to add a veteran quarterback, I think it will either be Sam Darnold in free agency or they will trade for Geno Smith for the Raiders. And I can see them then going after a big number 1 receiver, Trey Harris. And look, if you put Darnold or Smith at quarterback, and you have Brock Bowers and Trey Harris, you've got the makings of an offense there. And I have them taking a running back, Hampton from North Carolina in round 3. You know, you'd have the makings of a decent offense. And you're going to need a decent offense. You're going to need to score some points in the AFC West if you're going to be competitive. New England, Jonah Savinea from Arizona. I thought he had a bang average Senior Bowl. I don't think he played very well. I think he has to kick inside. I don't think he's a tackle. My biggest issue with him has always been that he doesn't finish blocks, that he can get in the way, but he never dumps anybody on their arse. Like you want to see a bit more aggression from him, and we didn't see that. I really wanted to see him. Like if I was advising him, I'd have said, have a fight with somebody, you know, in the 1v1s, get things going, rough somebody up, have a bit of afters after the whistle, you know, show that you've got a bit of a mean streak in you. And he didn't do that. And you don't really see it on the tape either. not enough anyway. So I thought a disappointing, underwhelming week from him. I don't know if he's going to go this early. I think maybe if I was going to do this mock draft again, I'd leave him on the board a little bit later than this. I don't think he's a first round pick unless he tests very, very well. But as I mentioned earlier, the Patriots need offensive linemen. And they're kind of getting towards the end of the initial burst of offensive linemen here. 39 Chicago, Princely Uman Mielen from Ole Miss. 22.8% pass rush win percentage, second only to Josiah Stewart in college football in 2024. Thing with him is motor runs hot and cold. You do see plays where he's mailing it in, and he needs to cut that out because the talent is there, the length is there, the size is there to be very, very good. And he and Montez Sweat together could be quite a combo. New Orleans, Jordan Birch. He's 290 pounds. He's a former running back. He runs. He did the fake field goal, or fake punt, or whatever it was that they had at Oregon, and he just basically ran away from everybody like he was 220 pounds, not 290. I've got him here to New Orleans because Cam Jordan's he's been an unbelievable player for the Saints for so long. What is it, like 12 years since he was drafted? I've got Jordan Birch as kind of like the heir apparent to Cam Jordan. So I think that is, he didn't go to the Senior Bowl. I don't know why. Hopefully he tests at the Combine. He did accept an invite to the Senior Bowl. We kind of expected him to be there, but he wasn't. Hopefully he goes to the Combine and tests very well. Elijah Arroyo, wow, what a week in Mobile. Fantastic. Just the fluidity, the body control, the strong hands, basically just a complete player really in terms of that pass catching tight end. I think he can probably be coached into doing a job. All I kept thinking of was Bears early second round, their version of Sam Laporta for Ben Johnson. That's all I kept thinking. And I'd almost put 20 quid on the Bears taking him in this kind of range for that reason, to be the next Sam Laporta. Tyleik Williams to the Jets. They need something alongside Quinnen Williams in the interior defensive line. Williams plays with his heart in his sleeve, very aggressive, great run defender. No length to speak of, 31-inch arms, not much of a pass rusher, but, could definitely do a solid job. Kind of like that guy, dependable defensive tackle who's going to come and bring it every week and be a good run defender. Azariah Thomas from Florida State. Again, what a week in Mobile. The more you watch him, the more you think, hey, if he tests well at the Combine, he could go in the first round. He has just been, I've been so impressed with the more I've watched of him. You kind of expect him to be stiff because of his frame. But the more you watch, he sticks in coverage. He's in the hip pocket. His turn and ability to track the ball is better than most cornerbacks. Really good, talented player, and someone who, like I say, as long as he doesn't run a 4.5 at the Combine, he might be sort of knocking on the door of the first round. Emeka Egbuka, very intelligent number 2 receiver type, could be perfect to pair with CeeDee Lamb. Consistent, gets the job done. I think people mistake a lack of flair and flash while he's been playing with Marvin Harrison Jr. and Jeremiah Smith at Ohio State. Do not underestimate what he did for Ohio State. And in this kind of a role as a number 2, I think he could have a long NFL career. Dak Prescott could be Dak Prescott's best friend with CeeDee Lamb. I think this would be a great pick for Dallas here. Indianapolis need a cornerback. Maxwell Hairston, smooth as silk in coverage. Went home from Mobile. Was one of those who did that. But he, after a couple of days, but he did show that he can stick in coverage, and he just glides. So there's other cornerbacks who maybe slightly more talented, but they've been injured. We're going to come on to those players in a bit. This guy's healthy, and I thought in the time that he was at the Senior Bowl, he impressed. Donovan Ezeruaku. We're all going to have a lot of fun pronouncing that name over the next few weeks. I thought he showed in flashes at the Senior Bowl. He had an 18.1% pass rush win percentage in 2024. I think it's going to be down to testing. How quick is he? What's his 10-yard split? How does he run a 40? What kind of a general athlete is he? Has he got explosive traits in the vertical and the broad? I think testing is going to determine how high he goes. Josiah Stewart, he would be a first-round pick every day of the week if he had a bit more length and a bit more height. As it is, he's not sort of the prototype. That's why I've got him to 47. His pass rush win percentage, 27.1%. Best in college football last season. Destroyed USC on his own, pretty much. That was an unbelievable tape from him. Can get around the edge, gives everything, warrior type player. It just does not have the kind of length and size that teams look for. So testing's going to be big for him. Andrew Makuba, brilliant. Not the biggest player, hits like a sledgehammer, just puts his body on the line, covers ground, just kept jumping off the screen watching Texas at the back end of the season. You know, you were kind of looking for Barron, but you'd find Makuba. I thought he had a fantastic end to the season. Derek Harmon to the Bengals. You know, he had a very productive season. Like his pass rush win percentage was great. He had a whole bunch of pressures, a whole bunch of sacks. But whenever I was watching him, I never thought, I'm watching a first-round player here. I kind of felt like, am I watching a player who's, I don't know, benefiting from his surroundings, benefiting from weak opponents? Is he better than? Am I just underestimating him? Am I getting this wrong? I appreciate I might be getting it wrong. Again, I don't know what the testing is going to be like. Don't know what the size is going to be like in terms of measurements. Need to see those things. The Bengals tend to draft defensive linemen that I don't like. Or it's not that I don't like Derek Harmon, although I don't rate as highly as some others. Some people think he's a first rounder. I think he's not. So I could see the Bengals taking him here. Right, Darius Alexander for the Seahawks at 50. I freaking love Darius Alexander at Toledo. What a player. You do not see many players who are 304 pounds who can rush the edge like this guy did against Josh Connolly at the Senior Bowl. It is unbelievable. And then you have the interior work that he did, you know, swim rip moves, the power, bull rush. He's got everything. He's got absolutely everything. He is a dude. When you listen to him to speak, he's got that sort of maturity to him, but aggressive. You know, he's going to fit right into an NFL locker room. Listen, it's very, very dangerous to make a comparison like the one I'm going to make right now. But when I was watching him, I thought I'm watching Chris Jones. And Chris Jones lasted to the second round because there were a few character issues. He's gone on to become one of the best defensive linemen in the NFL in his generation. If Darius Alexander is half the player of Chris Jones, he will have an amazing career. But when I was watching him, that was the player I kept thinking of. He's got 34-inch arms, 304 pounds, and he might run a 4.8. Like this is a player. And as I was making this mock draft, I was most excited to make this mock draft to put Darius Alexander with the Seahawks. And then after I published it, I thought, he's not going to last to 50. Like he could be a first round pick. He could go in the top 40 easily, especially after a great Senior Bowl. So I love this guy. I think if he lasts to 50, if you can get Tyler Booker and Darius Alexander with your first two picks, that'd be an A+ draft for the Seahawks. Denver at 51, Harold Fanning Jr. I just didn't think he looked as good as Arroyo and Taylor at the Senior Bowl. He didn't look as quick. He didn't look like as natural athlete as they are. His tape is unbelievable. You know, there are games where he is the Bowling Green offense and he still has like 15 catches for 150 yards and a couple of touchdowns. So he's definitely got something there. Again, Denver putting weapons around Bo Nix. I think this would be a great fit for them. Deion Walker at Pittsburgh. You know, they tend to like these big defensive linemen. It seems like a fit. He is quite an aggressive player, which would also fit them. I just thought it was a bit embarrassing looking at him with a big flabby gut hanging over his pants, and then these very thin legs, and all that makes me think of, yeah, okay. I mean, he had a bad college. I thought he had a bad season for Kentucky. I thought he didn't play well. He didn't live up to expectations from the previous seasons at Kentucky, and then you wonder, like, how are you going to anchor with those legs? You know, what is your conditioning like to have a belly like that? Like, look, there are big guys with bellies in the NFL playing offensive line, defensive line. Not like that. Not with like the gut hanging over. I mean, what is he doing? Is he having like 6 cans in a night? You know, what is it? Is it barbecue night every night in his house? Like, the conditioning wise, where is he at with that to be in that shape? It's just something that I think it stuck out to me. And if I was running a team who was going to spend a high pick on this guy, I'd be focusing on it. That and the fact that his play wasn't very good last year. And I thought it was hit and miss at the Senior Bowl. So just something that made me think. Carson Schwessinger. I really, really, really wanted to put Carson Schwessinger early because I think he's a fantastic player. You know, he's one of my favorite players in this draft class. He reminds me of Logan Wilson, who was a blog favorite back in the day. We loved Logan Wilson on SeahawksDraftBlog.com. And, we've had some success. I really like Fred Warner, talked him up back in the day. We have had some success with linebackers. And I really like Schlesinger. But Logan Wilson was like 65th overall or something like that. And we have to see how he tests. He was a bit of a one-year wonder at UCLA. We have to see how he tests before we can sort of say, yeah, he's going to be a first-round pick or a top 40 pick. But right now, I've put him at 53 with Tampa Bay, but could go earlier than that. Trey Amos, cornerback, a big need for the Packers. I thought another one who was disappointed with to bail from the Senior Bowl. He's not as good as some of the other cornerbacks. I think he's like a tier below the ones that have gone already. But it's a need for the Packers. Chargers, Ty Robinson, a machine. Absolutely brilliant on the third day of the Senior Bowl. Those sort of final 1v1s, he lit it up. He was fantastic. Had some wins against Grace Abel as well, by the way. Just a Jim Harbaugh type of player. He will be a favorite player among scouts. And I think coaches, when they get to know him and they watch the tape, will think, I can win with this guy. So he's not Braden Fisk. He's not going to have 8 sacks. He's not going to be an unbelievable testing athlete like Fisk, but he's going to give you what you're going to get from him every single week, and teams will like that. Kevin Winston Jr. would have gone a lot earlier, 56 to Buffalo here. He would have gone a lot earlier than this, but for the injury, quality player, become a bit of a forgotten man because we just didn't see enough of him, but class act as a player, and the injury could knock his stock. Braden Swinson, the LSU edge at 57, I think one of the most underrated players in the class. 22.1% pass rush win percentage in 2024. Just elegant rushing the edge, quick, more powerful than he looks for his size. I think he is somebody who could surprise people in terms of what he can do at the next level. I think he's a really good player. Alfred Collins at Texas. He's got nose tackle size, about 320 pounds, but he's an athlete. He had a much better 2024 season than 2023. At the start of the 2023 season, believe it or not, it wasn't Tavondre Sweat or Byron Murphy that people were thinking he could be like a player who really develops his stock. It was Alfred Collins. People thought Alfred Collins was going to be that guy, and he kind of disappeared, and Byron Murphy and Tavondre Sweat just went through the roof. And this year, he's not had the same impact that they had in 23, but he has had a much better season. So I think this is a fair range to put him in. Siobhan Ravel at 59 to Baltimore. Injury, if he hadn't got the injury, he'd be a first-round pick, but he's got a knee injury. So that's going to keep him on the board. Joshua Farmer, Detroit. Unbelievable Senior Bowl. Start the first 2 days, power, just driving through people, bull rushing, straight arm, driving people back into the quarterback. Final day, I think someone tapped him on the shoulder and said, we've seen you can do that now. Show us some speed. We know you've got it in you. So he started winning with speed moves instead. He had a great week. Great week. Could go in the Keanu Benson range if he has a good combine. He did an interview at the Senior Bowl and said, watch out, I'm going to test better than people think. So I think I've got him probably too low if that's the case. If he tests well at the combine, I'll have him in the same range as Keanu Benson. He was the 49th overall pick to Pittsburgh. And if he has a great combine, he will go in that range. Look, Seahawks pick at 50. If Darius Alexander is off the board at 50, Joshua Farmer could be a nice alternative for the Seahawks at 50 if Darius Alexander's gone. Quinshon Judkins, running back, Ohio State at 61 to Washington. He's the other running back from Ohio State. I've got him lower than some of the other. I just prefer other running backs, but there's a lot of buzz about him going in the second round, so I decided to put him there in this mock draft. Benjamin Morrison had the injury with Buffalo, 62 here. Had the injury at Notre Dame. There is apparently a bit of how is it a longer term thing? Need to check that out at the combine. So the medical checks will be key for him. Would have been a first rounder probably if he'd stayed healthy. So medical's important there. 63, Nick Scorton from Philadelphia. Didn't go to the Senior Bowl. Don't know why. He reminds me of Boogie Basham, who went to Buffalo. He reminds me of AJ Epineza. He reminds me of those kind of players who everybody says they're going to go in the first round. They're going to go in the first round. They're big. They're not particularly quick and athletic, and they always end up going in the second round. So that's what I'm going to say Nick Scorton is going to be. And then Caleb Johnson, who I like better than Judkins, the running back at Ohio State. I really like him. I think he's got star potential. I thought he had an unbelievable year. He was basically the Iowa offense. I think this is too low for him. I think in reality, or in terms of my mock draft, I think it's both too low. But I'm trying to sort of not just put my opinions down. If you want to see what my opinions are, go on to SeattleStraplog.com, click on the tab that says horizontal board. You will see my grades for all of these players. I think this would be a steal for the Chiefs. And don't they need any extra help there? So there is also a third round. I'm not going to go through all the picks because we'll be here all forever if I go through all of these picks. Just a sort of a sampling of some of them. Jack Nelson, who's at Cleveland to 67, I think it's a shame he wasn't at the Senior Bowl. He is an underrated player and someone that I really like a lot who can play tackle or guard. Quinn Ewers at 71 to New Orleans. Keep an eye on Quinn Ewers. I keep saying this. Regulars to the blog and to the stuff I do in the videos will know I keep saying, look, he's had injury issues. He's been inconsistent. His play fell off after having the abdominal strain and the ankle injury during the season. And size-wise, the measurements are going to be really important for him because he looks small. I take all of that on board, but he has got incredible natural talent. And John Schneider looks for those kind of things. He looks for that sort of who has got the special qualities. And in fairness to Quinn Ewers, his arm talent is special. He is somebody through the recruiting system that got a perfect grade. Was it 24/7 Scouting or somebody? They're giving it to like 6 people, and Jadeveon Clowney and people like that, the perfect recruiting grade in high school. And Quinn Ewers got it as well. He has been seen as somebody who is on a trajectory to sort of being a top NFL player throughout his life. And it hasn't happened for him to the extent that people thought, like he was going to be the number 1 overall pick one day, but he's still a very, very, very talented player. And I still think there is a chance that he is going to interest teams, not in the first round, possibly not in the second round, but when you get to the third round, maybe teams will think it's worth taking a shot on this guy. And if you take a quarterback in between, I'd even say from 50 to 75, I think it's kind of like worth a shot. Like when the Eagles got hammered for taking Jalen Hurts at 50 or whatever it was, and he's ended up taking them to 2 Super Bowls. They might win one in a week's time. Sometimes you just take a chance on somebody in that range, and it's a bit of a shot to nothing. So he is a name that I would suggest Seahawks fans just keep in mind. For some reason, the internet hates Quinn Ewers. All I would say is there are not many quarterbacks who had a win like he did against Alabama in 2023. He basically went and beat Saban's Alabama in their own backyard on his arm with one of the best throws that I've ever seen. There's a throw by Lamar Jackson, there's a throw by Kyler Murray, and a throw by Quinn Ewers. They're the best 3 throws I have seen by a college quarterback since I started doing this draft blog in 2008. The talent is there. He has led Texas to places they haven't been in a long time. Semifinals last year in the college football, or almost beat Washington in the semis to get to the national championship game. Almost beat Georgia with a chance to get to the national championship game. He got them back against Arizona State at the end when Arizona State were dominating that Texas defense that gets a lot of credit for things. So it's not all bad, but there are issues there as well. And I think be open-minded, be balanced. There are pros, there are cons. I'm just saying keep his name in mind. Looking down the list, I thought Devin Neal's a really good player for Dallas. I think he's a very, very talented running back. Oluwafemi Oladeju looked like an absolute beast at the Senior Bowl. His frame, the way that he played, the way that he interacted with his teammates, looked like an alpha. Somebody to keep in mind for the Seahawks, I thought. I've got the Seahawks taking Tate Ratledge at 82. I thought his tape when he played, and he barely played in 2024 because of injuries, was poor. I don't think his tape the year before was that great either. I think his best tape was the year before that. But he is big. He is athletic. The rest of the Georgia offensive line all talk about him like he's the dude and he was the guy and he was the one they all kind of looked up to. And I just think, if you want to run the ball and you want athletic big men and you want people who can set a tone and have got that kind of attitude, then you might have to consider players like that. Now, Tate Ratledge, for me, he shouldn't go any higher than this. Like it's 3rd and 4th round for him, especially because the injuries he had last year. But if you are really serious about being a quality trenches team, you have to commit to it. So in this mock draft, I've got Tyler Booker at left guard, Tate Ratledge at right guard, and I've got them sign and explain if you check the whole article out on SeahawksDraftBlog.com. Then I've got them signing Drew Dolman in free agency, the best center that's going to be available in free agency at a good age. And then that's your interior sorted for the next 4 years, hopefully. And that will enable you to run the ball Drew Dolman's got very good running grades. Ratledge, size, athleticism. Bucket, size, athleticism. I think that's a pathway to having a very good offensive line. I think if with these 3 picks that I've got, you're going to come out with a good offensive line and a reinforced defensive line with the potential in Darius Alexander, somebody who could be special on that defensive line. So this is the kind of draft I think the Seahawks need to have. If you want to be, if this is what your identity is going to be under Mike Macdonald, you've got to commit to it. Like if they go into this, if they spend the next 6 weeks talking about running the ball and being physical and the trenches, and then they go and draft a bloody receiver again in first round or cornerbacks again, you kind of think, well, what are you doing here? Like the message does not match with the actions. Like if you want to be a trenches team, you have to commit to it, and that means spending a bit of money there, and it means draft picks. So I hope they stick to this. Some other things, Wyatt Millam, I thought had a very disappointing Senior Bowl. I've got him dropping down into round 3, and I've dropped my grade on him because of a disappointing Senior Bowl. Will Howard's getting a lot of buzz. I don't think he's going to go any earlier than this. I just don't think he's got those special qualities. I like Will Howard. I've liked Will Howard for a long time. I liked him at Kansas State, and I liked him at Ohio State. I love the passion that he plays with. He's got some physical tools. Just has he got that? Is he a starter in the NFL? I'm not sure that he is. But the Jets taking a chance on him there, maybe getting a veteran in somehow, does make a degree of sense. So there we go. That is my 3-round mock draft. If you want a bit of a further look at the 3rd round and you want my thoughts on the Seahawks, again, check out SeahawksDraftBlog.com. If you have stuck through to the end of this marathon video, thank you and well done. I hope that you are willing to accept the picks and the thought process. A lot of thought goes into this. All I would say is before you rush for the comments to tell me that I don't know what I'm talking about, there's a lot of people who just copy other mock drafts or whatever, or they dabble a bit in the draft. This for me has been, an absolute immense amount of work going back. Some of these players I've been watching for 2 or 3 years. Some of these players I've been watching since the summer. Some of these players I've stumbled across during the season, but I've then gone and watched 8 games of them. It's a never-ending process. As soon as we get to the summer and that draft finishes, I'm watching players ahead of the next draft. Like the amount of hours that have gone into this is incredible. So by all means disagree. By all means tell me that you think teams will do this, or you don't rate this player like I have, or you think they're going to go in a different direction. But just let's at least embrace that a lot of work has gone into this. And I haven't just sort of knocked this together. I mean, the blog mock draft itself is over 3,000 words long. So a lot of thought has gone into this. Anyway, go and check it out. Let me know what you think in the comment section here or on SeahawksDraftBlog.com. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Let's get those subscriptions closer towards 10,000 before the NFL draft in April. Give the video a like, even if you hated the mock. Leave a comment. It all helps for the channel and gets eyes on it. Thank you for watching this mock draft edition after the Senior Bowl. And I know it was a long video, so thanks for sticking by it. Until next time, bye for now.